Everybody seems to be here. I don't know if Jim is attending right now or not. I'm assuming he is. Hi, good morning. All right, Gary, let's get us started.
All right, good morning, commissioners. It is Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. While Chair Bernard is here, he is, he's technically not. So Vice Chair Schrader will chair the meeting today.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But roll call, Chair Bernard.
Here.
Vice Chair Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
All commissioners are present. All right, we will start with the issues list. We have a list today, so we'll start with wildfires update. We have Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management and Incident Commander for the Emergency Operations Center. Please go ahead.
So good morning, everyone. So for the Wildland fires, just an update on our two federal fires real quickly. Beachy Creek has not grown any. It is still over a little 193,000 acres. And it is now 81% contained. And we're down to 52 personnel on that particular fire. Riverside Fire is a little over 138,000, and there's 23 personnel there, and it's 72% contained. So I was going to talk a little bit today about some of our statewide numbers for our wildland fires. Statewide, there have been 9 fatalities. None of those have been here in Clackamas County. There is still one missing person. We have 1,866 that are sheltered persons. We have very few of those are here in Clackamas County. We've been able to find places for most of them. There's around 6 that we're still sheltering there. For statewide, for individual assistance, there are 20,976 that have registered individuals or families. And just a reminder too, that this is for the straight wind fires, the straight winds as well as the wildland fires. 1,536 of those that have asked for individual assistance are here from Clackamas County. There's approximately 1.2 million acres that have burned statewide, and about 250,000 of that is here in Clackamas County. So we did have one of the largest fires here, of course, in our county as well. Statewide, there's 4,003 residents destroyed. 62 of those are preliminarily here in Clackamas County. We are expecting that number to go up slightly. Other structures that are destroyed statewide are 1,400, and 214 of those are here in Clackamas County. We do have an outreach center that is now being opened in Estacada at the Estacada City Hall, which is at 475 Southeast Main Street. And that's primarily for individuals that have filled out their IA, their individual assessment with FEMA, and may have questions or may have gotten a letter saying they need more information, etc. So they can go to that center to get that help, as well as we do have some other abilities there as well. We have people that can go there and talk to one of our GO teams, which is for behavioral health, and some others that are going to be there on and off. So that is my wildland fire update before we talk about the draft letter, if you have questions.
There are no hands raised for questions. So let's move to the letter. Next is a draft letter to the State Emergency Board on wildfire debris management. I sent you a draft of the letter yesterday, commissioners. So Nancy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And Christina, if we could bring in Eben Polk, please, and probably Chris Lyons. So yes, this letter that you received is a letter that we would like to send to the emergency board. We understand that they maybe later this week actually might be meeting about debris. And we just want to make sure that they understand what our concerns are as we move forward. So the state still has to make some decisions on what they may or may not support at the local level. And so everything that we're doing is kind of depending on what they are doing and what they are going to be making available. The FEMA has some more decisions that they have to make too around private property in particular, and if they're going to support that. And then, of course, you as a commission later, if they did support that, you would have to decide if we were going to support that here in Clackamas County. So I'm going to just have Evan talk about the letter just a little bit and what our thoughts are around why we think this is important. And then Chris can answer any questions. He's the one that's been watching the e-board and when they may or may not be meeting. So Evan?
Okay, good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Hopefully you can hear me. It looks like you can. So this letter arose from, I think, a series of questions that came up, starting with a meeting held last week with the Regional Solutions, the Governor's Regional Solutions Group. It's been a rumor up until last week. And then last week we heard specifically that the state's debris task force was proposing to manage debris cleanup statewide on behalf of counties. And in Clackamas County, there are really two big pieces to that. One is the removal of hazardous trees along our rights of way, which we preliminarily estimate at around $4 million cost. And then potentially, as Nancy said, subject to FEMA's approval and then your approval, potentially clean up assistance on private properties, which our preliminary estimate shows might be in the neighborhood of around $7 million. And so once it came to light that the state might be proposing some options to cover that for us, naturally a number of questions arose. Those questions were shared with Governor's Regional Solutions Group and then kind of crystallized into this letter today. I know there's been some input from at least a couple commissioners into this letter, which essentially says, hey, we're interested in a state level approach, but we have some questions. And one of the things that we're trying to tell is our debris preparedness story. We have a debris monitoring contractor. We have a debris plan. And that sets us apart a little bit, I think, from other counties. And that has been news to the state. So we've been trying to tell them, hey, we have a reasonable level of preparedness here, and it might be helpful for us to understand what kind of flexibility we could get in using some of our own preparedness tools as we proceed forward, while still expressing interest in learning more about the state option. So that's kind of my summary of the letter.
Here we go. So, and one of the things too, and I'll have Chris talk to this because I know he's got the latest on the e-board, but this might need to be changed just a little bit as e-board is coming together. I know Chris got some information yesterday that was a little bit surprising to us because the number we saw earlier about what the state was talking about putting into it looks very different than what might be going before the e-board. So Chris, do you want to talk about that just for a minute too?
Yeah, hi, Commissioners. What we're hearing is that the e-board meeting is currently being looked at for Friday, but it's not confirmed yet. And there's quite a bit of disagreement between the governor's office, the House, and the Senate over a variety of issues relating to the meeting, not necessarily this debris management issue, but other things that they may need to tackle. So nothing's set in stone yet. In terms of this issue, we heard yesterday that they are looking at providing an appropriation of $50 million towards debris management. And what I've most recently learned in looking at the materials that were presented at yesterday's Wildfire Economic Recovery Council meeting, that those occur every Monday, the materials show that they are expecting $50 million to provide enough cash flow for structural debris removal through sometime in March. And it sounds like at the same time, hoping that FEMA may reduce the state cost share below the 25%. And if they do, that $50 million should be sufficient to cover the cleanup costs. If they don't, then they anticipate needing another, I think it's at $83 million, and that would, they would do, bring that to the 2021 legislative session to commit those dollars for the additional work and the state share.
So, and I think part of the concern here is that, that 50 million or even the 83 is not enough to do, if I'm looking at Evan too, because I think the first number we saw was like 200 and some million. Because if you look at statewide, the 50 million or 83 million is not going to go very far. So we may have to just take this letter and revise it a little bit, given the information that we're getting.
I
So
can speak.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Last week, when the state released a concept for doing all this work on behalf of the counties, the number they cited was $622 million in total cleanup costs. But again, as Chris says, maybe somehow at the state level, that conversation has changed.
So our ask today is the draft letter, and after we learn more about the e-board and what might be before it about debris, we would like to send a letter to the e-board expressing our concerns and also asking, since we are further ahead in some counties, is there some flexibility of how we can work with the state to help get reimbursement for the state if they're going to have that?
There's one thumbs up by Chair Bernard. Any questions, commissioners? Comments? Commissioner Savas, you're on mute.
So, yeah, the letter citing the 25%. So remind me again, who's picking up this? I don't want to get stuck with a bill, right?
So we don't know for sure. I mean, the 25% is should be the least of what we would have to pick up. It could be 10%, which is what Chris is talking about, that they're working toward with what's going to happen with FEMA possibly. So there's two things that could happen. The state could say, yes, we're going to help you out and pick up this 25%. The state could say, sorry, it's not going to happen. You're on your own, and we're going to have to pick up the 25%. And it's possible that the state is also going to be picking up that the 75% that is we have to front before FEMA, will pay us back. And it's possible that's going to be on us as well. We honestly don't know what's going to be happening at this point.
Okay, so just to do a reset, I think when this first came up, I was under the impression that the Clackamas County could opt in and cover the 25%, and then FEMA would pick up the 75%, or the default was that the property owner could actually do that, have to be responsible for picking up the 25%.
Okay, there's two things. So we have two things going on. One of them is public. So our public right-of-ways, et cetera. So, and then there's private. So I'm going to talk about public first.
Okay.
So we have to do the public cleanup at some point. We still don't know for sure if the state's going to be able to help us with that or not. So the $4 million for trees, for example, so $1 million of that is 25%. So the county, if the state doesn't come and say, yes, we're going to help with that, the county will have $1 million if it's 25% that we have to pay. And we would have to pay the whole $4 million up front. If the state is not going to be able to help us, then FEMA would pay us back that 75%. Okay. Private property. So FEMA has not said that we can clean up private property. They have to give us that order to say that, yes, we're going to allow Oregon to do that. A couple things has to happen there. So first of all, they have to say, yes, you can. And then the county commissioners also have to agree to that as well. And in that, the first thing that our homeowners need to do is go to their insurance. Okay. So then there is still the possibility that the state is going to be able to help us with that. But we don't know that for sure yet because the e-board hasn't met. We don't know how much money they're going to put into it, et cetera. We have definitely said we are interested. So that if they can help us, there is a possibility that they could do the whole thing at the state level, and the state would pick up the 25% or 10%, whichever it may be, and would front the dollars as well. Or it could be they don't have enough money and we work out something with them, and we could still pay the 25% at the local level and then get the 75% back later if the commissioners decide to do that. And I realize it's confusing. Yeah.
So I'm sorry that I had to run to the door for a moment. Someone came here. Paul, did you have, I don't see any hands up. Do you have another question?
Yeah, so just a quick follow-up, Nancy. Thank you for that. So the letter's trying to address both?
The letter is addressing both because it's a possibility both could happen.
Okay.
But I want to make sure, I just want to make sure everyone understands the public infrastructure has to be done at one point. The private property is still up in the air what that's going to look like.
Okay, because the second paragraph obviously is talking about both, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't really say in the letter for, maybe the state will understand it, but for any other reader, it doesn't really explain what you just have highlighted or we brought to the surface, in that there's a public portion for the public aspect. In a way it does, but it's not crystal clear.
Okay, and we can work on that paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm reading it right now. Yeah, you're right. If you understand the FEMA system, you understand what it means, but we can work on that. And with Evan and his group, we'll work on that.
Okay.
That particular paragraph.
Gary, I don't know if this is the right time to make a comment, but I did have an opportunity, and I think Chris needs to know this, to talk to Christine Drazen yesterday. And she is willing, according to her, she told me they, have only spent 65 million, and that they are actually sitting on quite a bit of money to spend yet. So, and she would be more than willing to if you tell us what the needs are, to see if they can loosen some of that up for the county. So throw that out there.
I'm sorry. So is that for Wildland Fire?
I'm not sure. She just said that it was a boatload of money, and they've been very tight-fisted with it. So I can get maybe Chris, you can get the details on that.
Sure. Yeah, I think they're being, they're trying to keep still quite a bit of funding and reserves.
And is that Wildfire piece of it? Okay.
I think generally speaking, still trying to keep a sizable state reserve.
Right.
So again, if this 50 million proves to not be enough for debris management, then that means they would have additional revenues or additional monies in the 2021 legislative session to devote to this purpose.
Right.
But it all kind of hinges on FEMA and how much FEMA commits to providing.
Okay. Well, she did offer her help in trying to shake loose anything that we needed for the county, just to give us a heads up. So she's an ally. And so we just need to be clear, Nancy, about what your needs are and get it to Chris so we can access that, I guess. So, all right.
Commissioners, do you support sending this draft letter with minor edits to the emergency board?
Yep.
Yes.
1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, 3, 4. Commissioner Savas? Yes, 5 thumbs up. All right. So if you make minor modifications, and then please send the letter and the final copy back to the board.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Any other wildfire questions for Nancy before we move on to the next topic?
COVID?
Not seeing any. All right. Next is coronavirus update. Nancy, please go ahead.
All right, thank you. So just to let you know, yesterday we had 36 cases. Today, so far, we're looking at around 30. So for the state of Oregon, so far, there is 39,794 positives. We have 628 deaths here in the state, 715 negatives. Clackamas County is at 2,942 positives, 65 deaths, 71,142 negatives. Multnomah County has 8,588 positives, 154 deaths, and 166,050 negatives. Washington County is 5,385 positives. There are 70 deaths, 1,006 and 170 negatives. Statewide hospitalizations is at 124. There's 35 of those that are in ICU beds, and there are 14 ventilators, or 14 of those are on ventilators. There are 100 this week, for the week of 10/12 through 10/18 in Clackamas County, there were 188 positives, and there were 44, which is 44.4 per 100,000. We're working on 45 outbreaks at this time, and in the workplace, there's 17. Food and farm, there's 3. Long-term care facilities and retirement facilities is 19. Daycares is 2, schools is 2. There's 0 at the healthcare settings, 1 social and 1 other. Again, for a total of 45. And that is what I have today. Oh, I just also wanted to mention that we did get some new guidance yesterday on statewide mask, face coverings, and face shield guidance. We're looking that over. From what we can tell, that the biggest change is really around face shields, and that you should be wearing a face mask with a face shield as well. And of course, there's some guidance on those who cannot wear the face mask and how they can wear a face shield. And they talk about businesses and what that means, of course, for grocery stores, fitness related, etc. We have received a few questions from our cities as well as some others about the changes in the guidance, and we're working on that. We're sending some questions to OHA too, just to say this isn't very clear. We're getting this question. Can you please help us out with that? So this has changed on the OHA website and is up now. And of course, we will make sure that we get the information out to our businesses as well as others here in Clackamas County. And that is all I have today.
Okay. Any questions? Looking
Yeah,
good.
sorry,
Oh,
I have a question. I couldn't find my raise hand thing fast enough. So Nancy, I really appreciate, I'm not sure if Gary sent it or you sent it or who forwarded the latest guidance on the face mask. But my gosh, it's like 7 pages long. I started to read it. I was so confused that people ask us, like, we are leaders in the community that are connected to our chambers and with members, and I don't know what to say, honestly. It's very confusing. So I really appreciate you asking for clarity, but if there's a quick and dirty to give us this is what is required, first of all. It's hard to know what is absolutely required, and then this is what is recommended. I think that's very important, especially as we move into the holidays and people are doing gatherings at their homes. And yeah, we can't police people's houses, but we should really have a good sense as to what is required, what is recommended.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We have some of the same questions because even when you read it, it seems to contradict itself in places. So we're definitely asking for some clarification.
Nancy?
Yes.
Would you please share the concept KISS with the people who put this stuff out?
I will do that. Yeah.
It drives me crazy. Just simple, direct, basic guidelines that, at a newspaper written level, which is about 6th grade, just KISS. It's stop talking to bureaucrats and start talking to citizens.
Well, it's, when we were sitting in the EOC reading it yesterday, we were kind of looking at each other going,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what did you just read? And how did you comprehend this? And so, yeah, and when we're doing that, it needs some work.
Yep. I agree with Commissioner Fisher. I mean, it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
Clear as mud, clear as mud.
Yeah.
Clear as mud, exactly.
Okay, well, we ready to move on, Gary?
Yes, thank you, Nancy, very much
Thank you.
for all you do. Commissioners, quickly, before we move on, our building hours have changed as of yesterday. We're increasing our hours to the public in the Public Services Building and the Development Services Building. Public hours are now Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. An additional hour at the end of the day. So 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for members of the public in the Public Services Building and Development Services Building. This started yesterday, October 19th. It is primarily for additional hours for our assessors and taxation office. Now, the property tax statements will be mailed this week, but if it goes well, we'll continue those hours. But just wanted to let you know that. Moving on, we have Supportive Housing Oversight Committee appointments and a choice of an ex officio member to this committee, and that ex officio will be one of you county commissioners. But we have Drenda and Jill Smith and Vahid Brown to present. Let's do the committee appointments first and then the ex officio. So whoever would like to start, go ahead, please.
I'll jump in and start. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Smith. I'm the Director of Housing and Housing Services within H3S. It's great to see you all. This morning, I want to make sure that you all have a good understanding of the purpose of and authority and membership requirements for the Regional Oversight Committee. They were all in your materials. And then we're going to have Vahid do a quick review of the recruitment process that staff entered into, H3S staff and PGA staff, to identify, recruit, and recommend potential members to you. And then finally, we'll be seeking board approval for our top 7 candidates to take to a matching meeting that's scheduled for Thursday, October 22nd. And we're hoping that an ex officio member can be identified to accompany me to that matching meeting. So I'd like to just jump in quickly and this is the first time that I've got to see these formal purpose and authority statements. So I thought that it would be important that you all saw those and that we could share them quickly.
Jill, if I can interrupt you, Commissioner Humberston appears you have a question before we start.
Yeah, I looked at the chart and the names and numbers are inaccurate. So Mr. Rosenblatt is number 94, not number 40 on that list. Amber is number 40, not number 11, and Ms. Bates is number 11. So I'm hoping that that's just a clerical error and no reflection on the actual list of names.
Unfortunately, the way the information was gathered and given to us from Metro was really hard for us to deal with. They took all the applications and they randomly assigned just a random number to them because they didn't want to put people's names on them. So those numbers are just random designations. They're nothing to do with the rankings.
Well, no, but the list of all of the numbers. If you look at the
applications.
Yeah, so Ms. Y is ID number 116, and that matches. Okay, on the list. And the first 4 do. The last 2 do not.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Number 11 is not Amber Hadkoff, and number 40 is not Peter Rosenblatt. So
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So are those the appropriate names that we are sending forward, or are those and the wrong numbers, or are they the right numbers and the wrong names?
The names on the chart, the small chart, are the appropriate names that we're sending forward.
Okay.
Staff tried to put them all together at the last minute on the large chart. So I don't think that those numbers being transcribed impact the recommendation in any way, but I really apologize for that.
It's all right. I just want to be sure that the names that we're sending forward are the names we want to send forward.
They definitely are.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Savas, did you have a question at this point?
Well, I'll just let Jill go first and she might answer my question. And if not, then I'll put my hand down for now.
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we all understand the purpose and authority of this committee. It's a Metro committee that's being put together and their purpose is to provide oversight on behalf of Metro Council to ensure that these investments, which are very substantial, achieve regional goals, desired outcomes, and that we proceed transparency and accountability. They will have the duties of evaluating our local plans, and we will be creating and you will be approving those plans. They can recommend changes necessary to achieve program goals and guiding principles. very similar, what I've learned, it's very similar to the process we went through for the bond for our plan. They can accept and review annual reports to ensure consistency with our local plan and the regional goals. They can monitor financial aspects of program administration, review program expenditures, and provide annual reports and presentations to Metro Council and the various boards of commissioners. Membership must be composed of 15 voting members, 5 from each county, which is, I think, a very positive step because we are using this body to help us create a regional program as well as run our, our individual plans. The membership must represent a diversity of perspectives, geography, demographics, personal, professional experience, people with lived experience of homelessness and housing instability, and will provide assistance needed to ensure that all of those demographics can participate. And then I wanted to jump to jurisdictional representation and ensure that we all realize that we need one representative from each of the jurisdictional bodies, Metro Council, our Board of Commissioners, Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, Washington County, and one from Portland City Council. They will be present. They will not be voting members, but they will be present for these meetings, these discussions. And I personally think that's a huge help for staff to ensure that we have board perspective. And then they talk about the different roles of chair people, facilitators, but I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that these committee members are considered public officials under Oregon law. They're responsible for complying with provisions in Oregon law. And there have been some issues on the Metro Bond Oversight Committee related to conflict of interest. And we kept that in mind as we made these recommendations. And I'm going to turn the next little, are there any questions before I turn the next piece over to Vahid?
Yeah, I do. So Jill, I read the document that has the purpose, and I know you editorialize it. That's fine, but it's pretty simple on the document itself. It doesn't really say much. And my concern with this is that while sure people that are appointed are somewhat officials of sorts, but they're really not accountable to anyone. And that is that gives me a little bit of heartburn. And it was under, I'm presuming, all along we've been told that the dollars that are collected in the county will stay in the county. And if that's not true, tell me. So on that presumption, just building on that, there was recently, staff had responded to a question from the Board of County Commissioners, and the question was, what supportive services are we offering today? I think the answer was, we're not offering any supportive services today. And maybe I read that wrong, but it was a pretty simple yes, no. But earlier on, before the measure even passed, H3S staff, and it doesn't really matter who, I'm not beating up on anyone, but I was under the impression very clearly that we are providing services that under the context, you could say that they are supportive services, but they're really not defined as supportive services. Is that a difference without, what's it saying? What's it saying? Is that a distinction without a difference?
So I'm not sure what question you're referencing, because we do provide supportive services, but the funding for the majority, if not all of those, comes from the federal government and from general fund a little bit.
So that
we get very little from the state.
Very little, but some from the state, but very little.
I don't know the exact amount. I get nothing from the state to run my program. Social services might get a tiny bit. The majority is from the federal government.
Okay, so thank you for that. That answers that one question. So the other concern that I have is Stability in the funding. So let's just say that there's a program that is decided by this committee to fund, and Metro Council approves it. We hire staff on our side to provide that service locally. Those dollars funnel in, everything balances out, life's good. We hire those people, they're doing their job. And, you know, but what assurances do we have that come the year following that they don't actually take another policy shift, stop that flow of funding? Now we're holding the bag for employees in a program that we put in place, and now we're going to fund something different altogether. So what I'm really looking at is stability, and I just wish this really came together in a more sophisticated fashion, frankly, in a more with more structure. But I'm just concerned that you know, the what was it? I forgot the term. There's a term for that, but basically what I'm saying is that if something of certain particular service is needed today, and that's the hot political issue and the flavor of the day, if you will, and then next year it's not, I'm just concerned about that stability of funding.
Those are really good questions, and I have had the same concerns, and that has been loudly expressed, and that is why our local implementation plan, our plan, which we're doing community engagement to create right now, that you will get to adopt before it ever goes to Metro, will define how Clackamas County, what gaps we identify and what we intend to do. And this oversight committee in Metro just has the ability to approve our plan and make sure it's in alignment with the requirements of this measure. Our plan will be very different than the other two jurisdictions. It's to meet our goals, and they cannot tell us what our plan can or cannot have in it other than it's in alignment with the values and principles, which are on the first page of this document. So it's just like the bond, we have local control. And I think that's really important. And also because we have local control, you'll see that year 1, 2, and maybe 3 will be in this first plan. We're not going beyond year 1, 2, and 3 because this will be a living, changing document, depending on the needs and how well we do. If we try a strategy and it doesn't work well, we have every right to jump in and change that strategy in our plan. And you will be, the board will be approving all of those changes.
I would like, I know that Commissioner Sonia Fisher's hand is up. For some reason, again, I'm not getting the spot where I can raise my hand now that I'm evidently running the meeting, such as it is. I did want to make a statement, Paul, is that one of the things that's been, seems to be moving towards additional dollars is they're doing almost seems like there's a potential for a pivot at MPAC. Having talked to Councillor Lewis about that, they and Jill, we had talked about this because it could be somewhat problematic, but it still seems to have legs of pivoting MPAC a bit in order to really work towards getting more federal dollars to sustain this and leverage federal dollars, additional dollars with this particular program. It's real preliminary at this point, but at this point I can see it going that way. And Jill, I don't know if you have anything to say about what could be problematic about that, because we talked about it at one point, you and I.
So leverage is a required part of our plan. So we have to say, we've got all of these, valuable funds. What are we going to do to leverage other systems to make them go further and impact other systems like criminal justice or, our people that are in the hospitals? How is the hospital system going to contribute to this? So Metro is trying to be at the table where the federal dollars exist, because that's where the majority of funding that could be used for leverage exists as well. They say, and we're taking them at their word, and MPAC's a part of this, that this is just to have another voice putting pressure on the feds to help us get this funding, not to create new programs or have another entity that's eligible to receive funding, which they are not right now. They
No.
are not eligible to receive any kind of federal funding.
So
That
we
would
would,
be the CAPS and the housing authorities.
yeah, so basically we'd be lobbying, but we wouldn't be, we'd be getting our share. We'd each have our say for our own area more than likely.
Exactly.
Gary, what did you want to add?
I can't raise my hand because we're a host. Commissioners, we're running out of time. We have to do the appointments today because they're due tomorrow. But I think this is a further conversation we can either have next week at issues or schedule a policy session. But I'm worried we're getting too far ahead of what we need to do right now, please.
Right now, it's just the appointment. So
Vahid will take you through that process and our recommendations.
Thank you, Jill. Good morning, commissioners. So the recruitment for the Oversight Board was posted by Metro and initiated by Metro in September 11th, 2020. They posted the opportunity for people to apply from all 3 counties in the region. They sent out emails to invite interested parties. We also did a lot of outreach to kind of turn up folks to apply for this opportunity. Public and Government Affairs and H3S staff, especially because of the wildfires, the opportunity to use social media and the county's website was pretty limited to promote this opportunity because all communications were really focused on wildfires and our response. But we have a lot of broad network in the county through BGA and H3S staff with providers, with the communities, folks that work with people experiencing homelessness or who are housers. Were asked to distribute this opportunity to people who they serve so that folks with lived experience would be among our applicants. So we did a lot of outreach, and we actually received more applications than Washington County, which was not heavily impacted by the wildfire. So that was positive. We had a really good group of applications. There were 32 total applications delivered to Clackamas County from Metro. One of them was declined as the applicant neither lived nor worked in Clackamas County. So we were considering 31 applications. Yeah, I'm not sure how that one came to us. As Jill mentioned, the measure and the values guiding the measure and the measure language has defined much of the kind of the priorities that we used as a lens through which we read these applications, including the requirement that a broad and diverse array of people be represented across the Oversight Committee. And so we endeavored to make sure that our list of recommendations reflected that diversity. The overall committee must represent communities of color, people with lived experience of homelessness, experience overseeing, providing or delivering supported housing services, experience with culturally specific services, representatives from the private business for-profit sector, people representing the philanthropic sector, folks representative of a larger list of marginalized communities, including Indigenous folks, people with low incomes, immigrants and refugees, the LGBTQ plus community, et cetera, and representatives of a continuum of care organization. And we also had local priorities that were communicated to us and discussed with county administration, that our recommendations include people who are residents of Clackamas County, with an emphasis on diversity, that it include people of color and people with lived experience. The Metro did request that each county include at least one person with lived experience of homelessness in their list of recommendations. It is considered a best practice in terms of representation, that when seeking to kind of involve in a decision-making body, folks representing a specific sub-community, that at least 2 people from that community have a seat at that table, to kind of reduce tokenism, the idea that folks with a single person with lived experience would be perhaps shy to communicate their experience if there were no other people with lived experience. So we had this request as well, and the other counties have that as well, to include at least one person with lived experience of homelessness. We went through, the staff at Housing Authority reviewed all 31 applications. We kind of determined which of the various areas of requirement, various folks represented. They had questions regarding equity and advancing racial equity, why they wanted to serve on this committee. There was a number of narrative questions that we were considering as well. And then our list of 10 top candidates that was determined on the basis of all of those priorities and requirements that I just discussed was identified, and staff personally interviewed by phone all 10 of the top 10 folks. And from that, a ranked list of our recommendations, of staff's recommendations of 7 people are included in your packet. Would like to go through the names or respond to questions?
So are there any questions?
We need to wrap this up, but yes, there are 2 commissioners in line.
All right.
Commissioner Fisher is first, and then Commissioner Savas.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just first, Paul, I did want to clarify that the way the funding will work is that it's not the money collected in each county. The money is distributed based on population. And that was a key point in the development of the measure, because we wanted to make sure that Clackamas County didn't get shifted because we didn't have the large industry and business such as Washington County. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Question, I've reviewed not only the recommendations from staff, but all of the applications, and I think staff did an excellent job in making the recommendations. I'm wondering though, there is the question about conflict of interest and wanting to minimize that. And I'm curious, we have Jeremiah Rigsby, if anybody who knows him with Care Oregon. He's a real incredible thinker. He's a Clackamas County resident. He is pretty amazing. And when it comes to leveraging those federal dollars through Medicaid, given his work with Care Oregon and knowledge, he would be an incredible asset. But I'm curious if, because Care Oregon may be a recipient of these funds, if that's why he was overlooked. And if so, I see that Peter Rosenblatt is also an incredible person with Northwest Housing Alternatives, was recommended. So I'm just wanting to understand that.
Yeah, with respect to Mr. Rigsby, he actually resides in Portland, and that is why. And I think that there is an error on the document that says Clackamas. Is that correct, Jill? I think he was listed in one of the tables that staff put together for this, but Jeremiah Rigsby resides in Portland.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I really want people we're recommending to be residents of Clackamas County. But could you respond to the intent of the conflict of interest? Because I would hate for us to recommend someone who has to constantly not weigh in because they have to declare a conflict, potentially.
So, Jill, would you like me to respond?
Sure.
So I think all of the counties had questions about this with Metro with respect to conflicts of interest and how that would impact our ability to identify people who could serve on these committees that had experience in the delivery of supportive services, right? That's one of the requirements. There are 2 requirements actually that revolve around experience in the delivery of services. And the persons in these organizations who do not have as part of their job a responsibility to attend to the fiduciary health of their organization, right? The executive directors, board members, and so forth. People like that, who I think Metro indicated in conversations with the counties, would be considered as even if an appearance of conflict of interest, we should not put forward those names. Staff, folks who are delivering services and are not, as part of their job is not to be overseeing the fiduciary health of their organization, but are delivering services, have deep expertise in that, then we were kind of given the green light to consider those qualified applicants and put them forward.
Okay, any other questions? Because
just quickly follow up. So Vahid, does that mean that they would not have to declare a conflict if there was some issue that would directly affect their nonprofit that they work for?
I mean, the local implementation plans do not get into the level of specific program providers but I see Jill unmuted herself, so I defer to Jill.
I think that it was determined that there's such a need for expertise that people that are on the front lines that aren't in a leadership position can be at these tables and would not be determined as having a conflict because they wouldn't really directly benefit from those funding sources. But you know, I think Metro is going to give those folks direction.
Thank you. That's just what I needed to know. I appreciate it. I really think that this is a great list, and I'm supportive of moving this list forward.
Well, that's what I think we're trying to get at. So I guess do we need to take a vote, Gary, or can we just do all thumbs up?
Commissioner Savas has a question.
All right, question. I'm still
Yeah,
not seeing.
it's just a real quick comment. I mean, if getting back to the whole thing of MPAC and Metro, if Metro is going to be looking to get federal funds or federal dollars versus us doing that individually, what concerns me about that is that, you know, typically they take an administrator fee out of that. So it doesn't all pass through to us directly or to the region directly. So, I mean, if there's going to be that kind of a relationship or expansion, frankly, of Metro's realm, I think that kind of concerns me a little bit because it would really mean less dollars. And it would be, I just like to see a justification why that would be a benefit versus the disadvantage I'm trying to point out here. Just want to just say that I'm not expecting an answer. No need to respond.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the appointments. So thumbs up on the appointments.
Okay, and I share your concern, Commissioner Savas. This seems to be scope creep to me, but.
If someone will make a motion, please, to formally approve the applicants.
So we have a motion. Yep. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Christina
All the board.
Christina will poll you.
Okay.
Yeah. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schrader,
Aye.
and Chair Bernard.
Aye.
All right.
Great. So next is to appoint an ex officio member to serve on this committee. That would be one of you commissioners. You would be a non-voting member of this group. I understand that Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Schrader were both interested, but that you have talked about it offline and you have come to an agreement. Would you like to share that, please?
Well, as usual, I'm fine with Commissioner Fisher. I know that she has spent a lot of time on this and really has her heart in it. I'm just going to request that I have an opportunity to attend those meetings and listen in. I don't need to have a title or be at a, you know, to do that. But I would suggest that's the route we take right now. So.
The public meetings?
They probably are. Are they public meetings?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Right. Would there be a motion then to appoint Commissioner Fisher as the ex officio to this task force?
So moved.
Okay.
Got a second?
Is it a
Second.
stay?
Is there a second?
Oh, we got a fish. Got a fish on.
Is that a second, Jim? No, it's not. Okay. Well, we'll second it. Okay, let's poll.
Vice Chair Schrader, were you the second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schrader.
Aye.
And I don't know if we'll get Chair Bernard. It looks like he's pulling in a fish. Oh, aye, perfect.
Yeah, there he goes.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher, did you have a question?
Yeah, just briefly, I just wanted to welcome Commissioner Schrader's involvement and any other commissioner. Frankly, this isn't a significant investment in dollars for our community, and we have the opportunity to really engage in systems change that will be significant, not just for the metro region, but for not only our county, but for the entire state and potentially nationally. This is a game changer, and it really warrants and is an opportunity for all of us to be engaged. And I really appreciate your confidence and the opportunity. So thank you so much.
Right. We'll move on. Thank you very much, Jill and Vahid. Drenda, go ahead.
Just a quick comment that the meeting tomorrow that Commissioner Fisher and Jill will attend will be with staff from the other 2 counties and Metro to match names. So of the 7 you approved, we will have 5, but we're not sure exactly which combination.
Okay.
Commissioner Humberston.
I'm curious if several of us attend these meetings in the audience. Is that something that has to be announced to the public?
If 3 of you go anywhere, we would notice it on your calendars, yes, that you're there, but that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll
Right.
move on then, Vice Chair. Thank you. Next is Veterans Village update. Vahid can stay. Please bring in Rich and Emily. You do have a policy session scheduled shortly, but this is just a quick update prior to the policy session. So as soon as we have Rich and Emily in the room, we can go and have that update. All right, here's Rich and there's Emily. And they're unmuting themselves and turning their cameras on. That's great. All right, please go ahead, whoever is starting.
All right, I'll jump in. So congratulations, Chair Bernard, on your fish, if you landed it. Fantastic.
Line broke.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry. Maybe
That's
there'll be
twice.
at least the bite's on. You know, I was listening to the previous conversation regarding 26-210. Congratulations, Commissioner Fisher, on your appointment as ex officio. Just to, you know, the one thing I wanted to say on this is actually this is an opportunity for us to actually end chronic houselessness in the county. Really, this is fantastic work and a major opportunity. And you know, and Vahid and Jill in leading this for HCS in the county, really looking forward to working with everyone on this. So on to the Vets Village. You know, succinctly, the Vets Village, truly successful in terms of what we've been doing there with Do Good. And again, thank you, Vahid and Emily, for your work in this space. Where we are with this is the lease. I want to talk briefly about the lease, and then Vahid can talk a little bit about our policy session. So our lease expired on September 30th of 2020, and there is a 1-year automatic renewal, and so that went into effect for the village. So it's automatically renewed. The only way we wouldn't have done the renewal is if H3S or DDT notified either party that we did not wish to continue with that. That did not happen, and so we are an automatic renewal. So we're carrying forward with the lease as submitted to the board back when we did the policy session on June 26, 2018. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Vahid to talk about our upcoming policy session regarding the Vets Village update and also a conversation about the future of the village. So Vahid.
Thanks, Rich. I also just wanted to provide a brief update on the village's performance and outcomes. I think that the commissioners are accustomed before COVID that there were regular updates about the village, and you haven't heard from me in a while on this this program. As Rich mentioned, it's continues to be very successful. Overall, the course of the program has served 53 veterans. There are 26 of them have moved on into permanent housing, 13 of those into permanent supportive housing. One of the villagers just this week had an offer on a house accepted and is buying a home with a VA loan. Another exited yesterday into permanent housing, and 3 folks are coming in right now, so it'll go back up to 19. With respect to the policy session, I am going to ask Emily to weigh in. So I think the purpose of the policy session is to sort of, the pilot has been completed, right? We've had 2 years of program performance, 2 years of data on outcomes. It has had a significant impact in our work to reduce veteran homelessness. It's kind of brought in a new partnership with Do Good Multnomah, which has proven to be a critical component of a lot of our approaches to houselessness in the county, and has been quite successful. And I think the question now, with the automatic renewal of the year extension of the 2-year lease, is a consideration by the board of the continuance of the program on its current property, or alternatives. Emily, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I'll just say that, you know, we heard you in September say that this was one of the 4 priorities that you wanted to finish before the end of the calendar year. It's timely. As Vahid said, this is the 2-year pilot project kind of timeline marker, and we'll be bringing that back to you in December as a policy session. We'll review the outcomes, metrics that we've seen and tracked throughout the 2-year time period. I plan to do, with PGA's help, some additional outreach to the neighbors. I think Commissioner Schrader and Savis went out to the neighboring businesses and made some commitments and had some initial conversations with them about what they could expect from us as neighbors. And I'd like to loop back with them. I think that would be really important feedback for you all to hear. And then on December 15th, we'll kind of wrap that all up for you and then provide some staff recommendations about next steps. If there's any questions or anything else you would like us to consider before we bring it back to you, we would appreciate that feedback now too.
Commissioner Humbertson has his hand up.
I would first commend you for the work you've done. It's just been outstanding, quite frankly. And it is a successful program. I'd like to know what it will take to, assuming that there was no negatives that come from your conversations with the neighbors. And if I can help in that, I would love to do so. I'd like to know what it would take to essentially make the facility permanent. And no longer have it be just a temporary program. I think it's demonstrated its value, its worth. From what I've seen, we have not had problems with our neighbors. So as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we can, let's go forward.
Well, I agree with one aspect of that, in that based on the success of the program, I'm convinced it's worth pursuing and continuing. But what Commissioner Schrader and I, and all of us actually, made a commitment to, not just the local businesses, but to the community at large, and also to DTD staff and ourselves. We made the commitment this is a pilot project and that the site itself was temporary, and that we would move the facility to a permanent location, or the operation, the program, to a permanent facility. So that is something that I want to make sure that coming in the work session in December, I think you said, discussion of that very topic, not for us to decide today, but I just want to remind everyone, those were the commitments we made to everyone.
Okay, Vice Chair Schrader, you're on mute and you are up next.
I just want to agree with, that was one of the stipulations. But Emily, I did have a question. We were originally going to do 30. Did we ever reach that number of having those temporary units?
He might be, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the village did not expand to full 30. There are more than the original 15. And there was two stages at which additional pods were added to the village successfully. Under COVID, no new additions have been made. So I think the total number of pods there right now is 24, and I believe one of them is used for meetings and other purposes and storage.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all I have. So,
Rich Swift is up next. If you'd like to add anything, Rich.
Thank you, Christina. So in terms of the land, I've talked with Dan Johnson, Director of DDT, about this. So we would, it would be up to HCS to work out purchase of the land if the board so wanted to pursue that in terms of making the location permanent. I do understand there have been conversations with the neighbors there. I do understand, per Vahid and from Duga, that the relationship with the neighborhood has been outstanding. But with that said, it would be up to us to figure out how to do the acquisition, because we would want to make DDT and the development agency whole regarding the property. And then also in terms of relocation, we have actually begun estimating what it would take to relocate. So we would have to identify property.
But less drag.
We would be looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million to 1.5 million to, unless we found a site that was utterly ready and able to take siting of the pods, the moving of the pods, it would be an expensive proposition. But we will be talking more about that in December. Thank you.
Chair Fisher?
Thank you, Christina. So I just wanted to, I really appreciated what Paul said about how we entered into this. And I do want to cautious us about making anything permanent as we have the supportive homeless services dollars coming into our system, which provides us the opportunity for really systems change and a in-depth conversation with our veterans community to ask them if this is the model that they would like to have, because we do have the opportunity to do things differently and really individually focus towards what people are needing to transition from houselessness to housing. So instead of investing in structures, I think being part of the community engagement, but we definitely need it to continue right now. We don't want to disband anything, but we just need to be thoughtful about moving forward.
Chair Bernard, you're next.
So I don't remember saying what temporary meant, how long that was. The other thing is, it is the community's very supportive of it, or the businesses around it. The other thing is the budget. I mean, it costs a lot to build that. We can't just let it go. And so I think we should look at reaching out to the neighbors, making sure we're good, and continue utilizing it, maybe getting to 30 and, you know, put a couple years behind it before, well, it'd be a couple years before we could even build anything to replace it. So that's where I'm at. So great job.
Why don't we talk about that in December, guys? I think that's kind of where we're going to be at this point. I wanted to do a time check. I think if we can keep going till noon, Gary, can we get everything finished?
We can get it done by noon, but not by 11:30.
Yeah. So I just wondered, is everybody okay with that as we move ahead? Because are we ready to move on? I am. To the next.
So yes, this is just an update then. You'll have a full policy session in December to discuss the questions you just discussed. I do want to ask Rich or Stephen for the lease extension. Is that automatic or does the board have to authorize that?
The language in the lease, as I read it, is automatic. Let Stephen jump in on that, I guess.
I haven't read it recently. I'd have to take a look at it.
Good. If staff could look at that and confirm if the board has to take any action or not. If so, we'll do that on the next consent.
Okay. Stephen, I'll just leave you to confirm that, but my read on it is automatic.
Can you send it to me, Rich, please?
I certainly will right now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much, Rich, Fahid, Emily, Stephen. We'll move on now to.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next is Construction Career Pathways Project, C2P2. We have Tracy Moreland. She's the county lead on this effort. And I want to give you a brief update on where we're at. And again, there'll be a full policy session on this topic coming up soon, but this is just a preamble preparing you for that. So Tracy, please go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners. Am I coming through okay? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Tracy Moreland from BCC Admin here today to provide an update on C2P2, the county's plan. The Construction Careers Pathways Project, it's a regional initiative that you first heard about earlier this year. As you know, their overall goal is to recruit and retain women and minorities in the construction trade and addressing those barriers that exist. July 28 was the first policy session presented by Metro staff, and the board's direction at that time to staff was to craft a plan using that framework that would work for Clackamas County. We've been doing that, and a policy session is scheduled for November 17 for your consideration. The So C2P2 requires collaboration between many county departments and Clackamas Workforce Partnership, which is a county's nonprofit partner. And you'll receive in your packets on November 17th to consider the details of the C2P2 framework, which includes diversity goals, which are universally the same throughout the region. Project thresholds, so county staff are working together to identify proposed upcoming capital projects whose cost and size would trigger the C2P2 compliance framework. There's two elements of C2P2 framework that will include a funding request to you in November. One is agencies adopting C2P2 will commit to tracking hiring and diversity goals and the progress on those. And that requires, for most organizations, an investment in software that's geared to construction projects. So we're currently getting info and estimates from commonly used software in the region. One is called LCP Tracker, Labor Compliance Program, and that shows contractors and the organizations together how they can manage employee information and diversity goals, and it includes training and tech support. So those estimates are still coming in. Initial investigation, it seems pretty affordable. Organizations also agree as part of C2P2 to make an investment in workforce support, which is an annual allocation, and Clackamas County would work again with Clackamas Workforce Partnership to help oversee workforce needs related to pre-apprenticeship. And agencies can decide for themselves what that will look like and what they can afford. So again, back in July, you expressed that interest in collaborating with Clackamas Workforce Partnership. So we've been working with staff there to come up with some funding scenarios on what an allocation from you might look like, an investment in workforce. And in November, we'll present to you funding scenarios between $15,000 and $50,000 and have a lot of detailed analysis of what kind of programs that funding would support, but just generally right now, it could support pre-apprenticeship cohort for women in Clackamas County, possibly in partnership with Oregon tradeswomen. It could support outreach to county high school students who are interested in pursuing work in the construction field. It could be used for in-kind support, such as tools, uniforms, boots, and other expenses that can be financial barriers for women and minorities entering the construction field or an apprenticeship program. So that's what you can expect to see in November. And I just wanted you to have an idea of what that might be, what your funding allocation could be used for. Also, part of the C2P2 framework, all agencies adopting it receive 2 seats on a regional collaboration committee, and we'll have recommendation on which employees could serve on that and represent the county. It meets quarterly, and it should be employees with the skills and the knowledge who can make a contribution. One seat has knowledge of capital projects for their agency, another workforce and budget knowledge. So we'll decide who might have the ability and the skills to represent the county there. And finally, I'm going to draft a resolution adopting C2P2 framework for you to consider. It's not required, but several other agencies have had board resolutions supporting C2P2, and I thought it would be good to include. So once you review, if you support it, we would format for a future business meeting for formal approval after the November 17th policy session. And that's my update to you.
Like Vice Chair Schrader's up.
Yeah, Tracy, I just want to thank you for doing such a great job with this, because you've worked really hard, and I really appreciate every bit that you put into it. And I just want to thank my fellow commissioners. Do you know that this is the first time we've actually given dollars in close to 15, 20 years to our nonprofit that actually does work for us. And I know we have a tight budget. I'm not asking for any more, but I do think that as we move forward with capacity building of nonprofits, they are a nonprofit we should consider. They are also working on a major childcare initiative. And at this point in time, again, they haven't identified any funding at all for that, but I'm hopeful in the future that together with the apprenticeship work we're doing and childcare and they also want to see, they're working with the superintendents on after-school programs. I'd really like to see that rise to the top as we move forward as a commission. Thanks.
Commissioner Humbertson?
Yes, I too would like to thank Tracy for her work and just to remind everybody that this commitment to our workforce is crucial. We need 40,000 people in the trades over the next 10 years for an incredible number of projects that are going to be going forward throughout the region. And as I've said many times, the idea of people making an actual living wage is what is going to help us get more people into housing. As they say, lifting themselves up by their bootstraps, but actually having bootstraps to do that with. So I am really pleased with this going forward. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simas?
Yeah, Tracy, good to see you again. Great presentation. Thank you for your work. All I want to just say is this, on the heels of our conversation with regard to the children's levy and the nonprofits and so forth, that I think, and it would be a good idea, even with the dollars that we kind of give out, and I know that Caroline does that as far as the grants, but that we are doing some kind of an audit to make sure that those dollars are achieving the results desired and so forth. So it'd be nice to have somewhat of an annual report on all of our nonprofits, frankly, when they get some of our tax dollars or general fund dollars or whatever those dollars are, if they're coming from lottery dollars, wherever they may be, that we are somewhat doing a responsible audit and a report back of as far as the success. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I could add, I think that I'll be presenting in November with Bridget Daisy, who's the director of Clackamas Workforce Partnership, and part of that plan will include at least a twice annual update to the board on our progress and the goal tracking.
And there's a huge federal component to workforce, Paul, so they are required to give us updates. They are not just meeting with their own nonprofit piece of it. They are meeting federal metrics, and they have been very successful with that. So of all the nonprofits I've worked with, I think even that overlay has given them a higher kind of a higher bar in terms of making sure that they're delivering on what they're supposed to be doing. I will say that the children's levy will not include childcare. I did check with Mr. Madcore on that. So whatever we do with anything with childcare, which I think is critically important to our workforce, it's rising to the top, not only from our workforce group, but from our business community. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but hopefully there'll be some other ways to get that pulled together. But it's not eligible for any of the children's levy dollars. So, okay.
Thank you.
I also thank you, Tracy, for your excellent leadership on this effort. So there's no decision today, commissioners. This is simply an update for the policy session you'll have shortly. But at that point, there will be a request for a financial contribution to this effort, which is very reasonable in my opinion, not to exceed 50,000. That is something we can definitely find in the budget to accommodate. But you will make that decision at the policy session. So thank you again, Tracy. Moving on, following up on your board schedule, commissioners, the week of November 17th through 19th, that is the Association of Oregon Counties Conference. We've obtained the agenda, we've sent it to you. So here's what I propose. On Tuesday, November 17th, retain your executive session in the morning, but start it 30 minutes earlier. So you would have executive session from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The Association of Oregon Counties Conference is virtual, and it starts at 9 a.m. and goes until noon. That is also the same morning as the Public Employees Diversity Conference, which is also remote. There will be a 1-hour session for executive leadership that includes elected officials. So we don't have the exact time yet, but I will ask you to attend the diversity conference for an hour after 9 a.m. and then go back to the Association of Oregon Counties Conference. After executive session in the morning before either one of those starts from 8 to 9, we'll move issues to the afternoon and retain your afternoon policy sessions. Do you agree with that proposed schedule for Tuesday, November 17th?
Yep.
I'm not touching that one.
I see a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, 3 thumbs
Yeah.
up. A shrug of yes. Okay, good. So that's what we'll do for Tuesday, November 17th. For Thursday, November 19th, that morning from 9 to 12:30 p.m. is the Association of Oregon Counties Annual Business Meeting. We do have a quorum of commissioners that chooses to be there. I propose canceling your business meeting for that week. We can stack the agenda the week before and the week after, so you will not lose any business, but we'll just fill up your agendas for the meetings before and after that week. So my proposal is that you cancel your November 19th business meeting because the majority of you want to attend the AOC conference. Is that acceptable, commissioners? I see 2, 3 thumbs up. Okay, very good. That's what we'll do. Very good. I have 2 new topics to add to the list that are very short for you today. First is the Elected Leaders Lunch. This is a lunch hosted by you, commissioners, in December for the other elected county leaders of Clackamas County. I ran this by Chair Bernard and Vice Chair Schrader, and they propose that you continue the lunch, but do it remotely, virtually, and that you will buy lunch for the other county electeds, which will be delivered to them, and you'll then enjoy lunch, but in your own room via a camera. That way you would still retain the lunch, but we'll have a virtual lunch because this will be the last lunch for at least 3 of you elected officials, and it'll be a good opportunity for you to spend time together. So do you agree with that proposal? It would be, again, a virtual lunch via Zoom, but you would still buy lunch for your colleagues that they would just eat on the camera. Are you okay with that proposal? I see thumbs up. I see 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up, a head nod.
Thumbs up.
Ken, you okay with that, Ken?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we will do that. Next, I want to give you an update quickly on the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Advisory Board. As a board of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, in August you met and you agreed to give the District Advisory Board until October 31st to finish their proposed recommended changes, updates to the bylaws of the District Advisory Board. That is 2 weeks away. After you made that decision, we had wildfires that delayed the meeting of the DAB for 2 weeks. And this week there was a cancellation of the meeting to accommodate for some staff requests to update the bylaws, which there are some significant changes to the bylaws. So commissioners, I am asking you if you will agree to extend the timeline for the DAB to finish their work and for 2 weeks until November 13th, because they have not had a chance to get their work done. They're almost done. I actually think they'll finish before November 13th, but I am asking if you will grant them a 2-week extension simply because of time that has run away outside their control. So this is my request. No one is asking this but me, but I'd like to give them an additional 2 weeks. I don't think they'll need it, but up to 2 more weeks to finish their work. Would you agree with that, commissioners? Commissioner Savage has raised his hand.
Okay with it, yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, considering the circumstances, I wouldn't have liked them. I would have preferred we had the meeting tomorrow night and had our work done on the 31st, but I'm willing to have the extension. But I think we also need to make a motion and approval of the board to re-extend the terms of everyone so we can do the work. So I move that we extend the deadline on November 13th and extend the appointments of those DAB members to the 13th.
Second.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Commissioner. The seats all expire October 31st as well. So could we just have an additional 2 weeks for the sitting members of the DAB? Thank you. Any further discussion on that?
Nope. Should we call the roll?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Fisher? See a thumbs up. Commissioner Hubbardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schrader?
Aye.
And Chair Bernard?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much, commissioners. I appreciate that accommodation. All right, moving on. Your board meeting for this Thursday, October 22nd. We'll have an elections update again by Clerk Sherry Hall, wildfire and COVID updates, and then a consent agenda. That's it. Nothing appears controversial. If you have any questions on any item, if you please let me know prior to Thursday, and I or staff will answer them for you. Next, advisory boards and commission appointments. But before we move on, I want to ask, was a package sent to the board with all of the applicants and the grid? Christina, did that go out to the board for the leaders of equity, diversity, and inclusion?
Yes.
It
It should have went out on Thursday with everything else.
Okay. So that material did go out. So Christina, go ahead and present what the options are, and then if any commissioner needs more time, we could talk about that. Actually, Commissioner Fisher, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, Gary, I review the information what's posted on the web, and the applications are not posted on the web. And I would like to review them before we take a vote. We can go ahead and present it, but if we could hold off until this afternoon, I just want to make sure I get those actual applications for all of them, like I did for the Metro Housing Support Services. So because I want to just do my due diligence in reviewing these.
So thank you, Commissioner. I want to confirm we do not post applications online out of respect for the privacy of the members, because their home addresses and phone numbers are listed on that application, but we email them to you as commissioners. So Christina, did commissioners get the entire packet that included every application?
Yes, they got it on Thursday. I sent it out at 5:38 p.m.
Okay, so if Commissioner Fisher is asking her colleagues if you'd like to extend time, so she has time to read that, would you be willing to do that?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we can bring it back this afternoon, right before the 1:30 session. How about that? Is that okay?
Right.
Everyone? All right.
And I'll resend the packet to everyone right now.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So we will do that. Thank you. All right. Final topic is Commissioner Communications.
Anybody want to go first? Paul?
I have just overwhelmed with transportation stuff at lunch. I have during lunch hour, have a 1 hour meeting on transportation. A lot of discussions happening. It's overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming. I think there's a lot of coordination, and I'm really pleased by that. So I think our staff are doing a great job trying to coordinate, not only amongst ourselves and our departments and other jurisdictions locally, but also regionally. So all that said, there's just a lot on the plate, a lot on the table at the state level. So I'm very supportive of what's going on as far as our coordination and the staff work that's being done. But there's a lot of changes in the pipeline, and we'll see how they play out here in the next 30 to 60 days.
Okay, thanks. Ken, you got anything?
Just would like to thank the staff for the guidance and help that they gave the community of Colton for the fundraiser that they were able to do for their volunteer fire department. The health department's suggestions were followed, and it worked very, very well. And I don't know how much money they raised, but I know on an online basis they had raised over $8,000 before they actually had the event. So they've really helped their volunteer fire department, and I really appreciate the efforts by our staff to figure out a way that it could be done and done legitimately. That's all I have today.
Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader, or Chair Schrader today. Hey, Gary, thank you for letting me know that we do not post those applications on the web. I've been using the web as my go-to to get informed, and I want to appreciate my colleagues allowing me this time over the lunch hour just to read all of those. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One little thing that I did want to share, which I just think is awesome, and it was super exciting. So as you know, I chair the Children and Families Committee through the National Association of Counties. And we had a small meeting with Rachel Mackley, who staffs the committee, and Joe Joy Bivens, who is now the Deputy Director for Franklin, Ohio, Franklin County, Ohio, and talked about an initiative that they're doing there and how it kind of works. I'll just give a little thumbnail sketch because I think it's pretty exciting what they're doing. So they have identified their youth of color in their juvenile justice system. And then from there, they have a wraparound services for those youth, mostly African-American males, where they help the whole family unit. It's called the Family Stabilization Unit. So for instance, if grandma needs an accommodation, they will connect up with their aging department, that case manager will, to help support those services. And they're keeping intense data on everything. But the piece that is extremely innovative is that the case manager is expected to identify barriers in the system of which they are keeping data on, and they are barrier busting for families of color, which then has looked at, it has enhanced services for everyone. So it's pretty exciting stuff. NACO is going to be looking at, featuring this, doing an article, really sharing it as a best practice. But it was just such an incredible moment to have this in-depth conversation. I just wanted to share it with us because there isn't any reason why we can't do that and keep data on where are the system barriers and how do we break them down. And that's what it's all about. So it's a pretty exciting time. Just wanted to share that with all of you.
Jim, we all want to know how big the fish was.
The line broke.
What?
The line broke. Steve said it jumped out of the water. It was huge. We weren't sure we could get it in the boat. It was so huge.
Really? Okay.
So let me give an update because I have two phones that are almost dead.
Okay.
I had to move to the other one. So on Friday, we met with our health officials and the chairs. And they presented us a draft. I believe you guys may have gotten it, of proposed 1.5, phase 1.5. And they are kind of working out those details. Our health folks, they were all very excited about it. And those details, we are going to meet again on the 30th. And on the 30th, we will discuss it, and we are scheduling a meeting with the governor. I believe we're going to try on the 5th of November to sit down with the governor and convince her why she should go this way. The state, by the way, also seems very open to it. It is one example is a bowling alley. There are possibilities that a bowling alley, because they have the ability to separate people, limit the number of people, and sanitize the balls and the shoe thing and all that, is an example of one. But we're trying not to say specific businesses. It's more, if you can accommodate, do these things, then you can open. And rather than identify specific businesses. So outdoor facilities, indoor facilities, as long as you can do this or that, then you'll be able to open under 1.5. Because at the rate we're going, we're never going to get to 2. We also talked about Marion County, and why did Marion County get to phase 2? Sorry, I'm holding that a little close. Why did Marion County get to phase 2? And actually, the argument really is once you get to phase 2, it's really hard to go back. And Marion County, even though they hadn't checked all the marks, were close enough that the governor let them go. And bringing them back's a lot harder. So, and I know we probably don't all agree with that. I don't. But that's the way it is. So hopefully on the 30th, we will have a proposal that we can take to the governor on the 5th and she'll support it. And that's my update.
Okay. Well, I could keep talking, but I think everybody wants to go to lunch. So.
Has Commissioner Humberston gone yet?
Oh, I don't know. Have you gone, Ken?
Yes, I did.
I think he did.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think I called him second.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
All right, so it's 11:42, so we're not too over, thank goodness. So Gary will be back here about 1:20 to do the.
1:30, we'll just do the appointments right at the start of that session.
Okay, and then we're going to have our budget session, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, see you at 1:30.